Before we get started, I want to talk about something I forgot to mention in my last video, which was brought to my attention in a comment. After Toffee was crushed by Ludo, his eye is suspiciously intact. So the question is Toffee alive, and can he use the eye to return? I think that even though the eye suggests otherwise, Toffee is indeed dead since Eclipsa was freed as per her deal with Moon.
But once your enemy is killed, you must give me something in return.
Okay, what do you want?
My freedom.
However, the eye may be his ticket to coming back from the dead. I'll go into more detail on how this is possible later. Thanks to Nikki W for the comment, and without further ado, let's theorize.
Cleave. Now that's a funny word. You can cleave something apart, or you can cleave something together.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another video about Star vs. the Forces of Evil. Last time I talked about Toffee and how by destroying magic, Star carried his plan through to fruition. Thanks to the positive feedback I got in that video, I've decided to essentially pick up where that one left off. You don't need to have watched that video first to understand this one, so don't worry if you haven't seen it yet. I ended that video musing about what might happen in-universe after this moment. Well, the first things that would happen are a hug and kiss. That seems like an obvious answer. But after that, who knows? The ending's open-ended nature has led to a lot of questions. How will this new world be organized? What consequences will characters face? How will Sarko develop now that it's official? Who will be the next big threat? Will magic come back? There exists numerous fan works which seek to answer these questions, so I feel it's only right to provide my perspective. The first thing that needs to be addressed is the structure of this new reality that Star and Marco unintentionally created. It's never said whether Muni was merged with all of Earth or just Echo Creek. The latter option is more likely considering Muni is seemingly much smaller than Earth. I mean, a lot of Muni locations are definitely within Echo Creek, so I'd imagine everything on Earth being the same once you leave the LA area. That'll be an awkward transition driving down the highway. When it comes to integrating humans with mumins and monsters, I don't think humans will have a whole lot of problems with it. Considering how unfazed humans are when it comes to Star's magic in general, I think that beyond the initial shock they won't be bothered by the change. They'll be like, Star did this? Yeah, that makes sense. Of course that makes one wonder why humans are so unfazed with Star's magic. Perhaps they're aware of similar happenings in a small town up in Oregon. Nah, I'm just joking. Or am I? Anyway, I think monsters will be generally accepting of the new world as well. It's humans that are the problem. They'll view themselves as the superior species, especially if the mural under British Tacos was destroyed, since that's really the only proof that humans are descended from humans. But I think they'll eventually come around, especially after some human, probably Jana, points out how the alleged superior species can barely function without the aid of a queen. I think the merge will cause those from Muni to adapt a lot of Earth customs and not so much the other way around. Think about it, Earth has so much to offer in terms of culture, but what is Muni's culture besides corn? Corn and a couple of holidays, that's it. Muni has a lot of magic devices which could easily be replaced by non-magical Earth technology that performs the same function. As for businesses, they'll be fine as long as they sell things that can be made in Muni. The biggest change would probably come to schools, which would not only have to accommodate a lot more people, but expand their curricula, especially in terms of history. Having to adapt to Earth customs will make humans become more self-sufficient, which will give whoever's running Earthny more time to do important things. Very important queen things. Speaking of which... Since two completely different worlds have been meshed into one, it's only natural that who's in charge would be one of the first decisions made. And Eclipsa is the obvious choice of who that should be. She was already doing a pretty good job as queen before the cleave, and I see no reason why her reign should end with that. She was able to successfully integrate humans and monsters into one society, so she should have no problems including humans into that mix as well. Considering how generally accepting humans have been of interdimensional shenanigans in the past, I think they'll be perfectly fine handing off control of their city to an experienced queen. Although, maybe with some stipulations. The Magic High Commission is gone, yay, and they were the only legitimate authority that could conceivably dethrone Eclipsa. The remaining dissenters would be any humans who still hold on to the antiquated ideals of the past. Anyone who still believes Moon would be a better queen despite all the things she's done. Not that Moon would want to be queen anymore. She's recognized that her actions, which she previously thought were becoming of a good queen, were just driven by blind racism, which, as established previously, was Toffee's fault. These dissenters would very much be the minority, so it's hard to see them becoming a legitimate threat to Eclipse's power. The other kingdoms should still be around, just subservient to the Queen, as had been the case in the past. Honestly, there wouldn't be that much change to how everything is run, just with some additional humans and monsters in the mix. Plus, Eclipse wouldn't have any problem integrating Earth culture into her role, like elected officials. And Earth chocolate. Look, I'm sorry about all these chocolate jokes. They're just so fun. Sized. I think it's unrealistic for Moon to not face any consequences for creating the Solarian warriors. Yes, she does have a change of heart and seems to genuinely regret what she did, but that doesn't change the fact that the deed was done. After all, the full extent of the Solarians' destruction is never shown, but it's very likely that innocent people were killed. Once this information gets back to Moon, I believe she'll turn herself in out of pure shame. What happens afterwards depends on who's the leader. Eclipse would want to pardon Moon since she isn't one to hold grudges, but she'll be under a lot of pressure. The other kingdoms are presumably still around in some form, and many of their heirs were caught in the crossfire. Surely they'd all want retribution for what occurred. Because of this, I think Eclipse won't make the decision herself, but will instead let the people decide, like in Coronation.
Perhaps they should decide.
Here's where conflict might occur, and for a moment from Star's past to come back to haunt her. Let's go all the way back to Starstruck, the episode where Mina first appeared. To recap, she tries to take over Earth but is told that if she wants to, it has to be put to a vote since this is a freak country. The vote comes up tied and it's up to Star to make the tie-breaking vote. And it was very difficult for Star to say no to Mina since this was back when she actually looked up to her. I think the same thing could happen when deciding Moon's fate. The vote would come up tied and Star will have to break it, and it will once again be very difficult. Star was willing to forgive Moon after magic was destroyed, but this was before either of them knew the full extent of the Solarians' destruction. Star has learned to consider other people before she makes decisions, aka the exact opposite of what Moon does.
As queen, it is your duty to do what is best for your people, even if they end up hating you for it.
I think that as much as Star wouldn't want her mom to face punishment, she knows she deserves it. However, I think Star would demand that the punishment be lenient, like house arrests. While Moon would probably be sad over this outcome, I don't think she'd be mad. I wouldn't say she's learned her lesson, but she's definitely accepted that what she did was wrong. Plus, she can spend more time with River, which is always a good thing. As for the less likely scenario that Earthny will be run by the common people, her punishment would be much more severe, likely with jail time. Why don't we move on to some happier thoughts? Starco becoming canon near the end of the series opens up a lot of opportunities. And this will be a much healthier romantic relationship than the ones they've had previously, considering both ended in breakup simply because their respective dates knew where their true feelings were. Star and Marco can finally go on their first date, though one could argue that they've been on several dates before. I mean, it's not like everyone on the show shipped them and or assumed they were already dating or anything. There's so much they can do together: explore the new world, watch movies, eat nachos, ride nachos, and do some important duties in helping integrate humans with mutants and monsters peacefully. Plus, Marco's monster arm won't be coming back. If Skolnick is human again, then Monster Arm is gone by default. What would their future entail? Well, I believe Star should become the next queen if the kingdom remains, not Meteora. Yes, Meteora is extremely powerful, even as a baby, but she strikes me more as a warrior than a queen. Someone who's better at leading an army than leading a kingdom. I mean, who better to replace Mina than the very thing she was trying to kill? The show very deliberately draws parallels between Star and Eclipse. Star has shown time and time again she has all the makings of a good queen just like her. And there's a lot of build-up of Star becoming the future queen, and it would be a shame for it all to go to waste.
I'm still gonna be queen.
Yeah, but that doesn't sound like a bad thing, because you're gonna run Muni your way. No matter how destructive.
Instead of Star being the sole monarch, she'd want Marco to be an equal ruler with her, since he's responsible for her character growth. Without him, she'd be no different from her racist ancestors, and without her, he'd be the boring safe kid who never took any risks. The universe pretty much decided they were perfect for each other after all. And no, I don't think the Blood Moon is a curse. It only happens every 667 years, so what people say about its effects could very easily have been twisted negatively over time. Star and Marco's feelings for each other don't go away when the bond is removed, so the Blood Moon isn't responsible for the feelings being there, it just acknowledges them. Long story short, the love Star and Marco have for each other will enable them to conquer any enemy who dares cross them. At first, Mina seems like the obvious choice for the big villain of Earthny since she got away without any punishment. I mean, why'd you aim for the armored helmet? Killing her should have been so easy! First off, she's clearly not physically strong without magic, and her entire army sans one deserted her after her defeat. Secondly, she wouldn't be able to get humans on her side because she's presumably still a wanted criminal on Earth for trying to take over back in Season 2. But the most important thing is that she might not have long to live anyway. Notice how she coughs several times when she goes on her rant. I think Mina is like Deadpool. No, not in coolness factor, obviously, but in how he stays alive. He always has terminal cancer, but his powers stop them from harming him. I think Mina might be in a similar situation. She's over 300 years old, so it's only inevitable that she's been exposed to some disease over that time. Hell, there's evidence that Mina has actually already started suffering from the disease before magic's destruction. Let's take a look at flashback Mina. Her clothes are clean, her eyes are normal, she seems relatively sane, albeit a little eccentric. Now compare that to present-day Mina. Her clothes are dirty, her eyes are shrunken, and she's clearly insane. Thus, somewhere in the 20-ish years between Toffee losing his finger and Star coming to Earth, Mina caught some disease which did affect her, but the Solarian magic prevented it from killing her. Now those symptoms can catch up with her. Mina actually seems a little more insane in Season 2 than in Seasons 3 and 4, but this makes sense since she's presumably affected by the magical fritz. Quick side note, her eyes are normal again after magic is destroyed, and she seems somewhat saner? Not sane, but a little saner. If slightly saner Mina does die, then the only remaining member of her rebellion would be Manfred, who, as you may recall, I use as the example of humans being horrible people. However, unlike Mina, he's certainly not a leader. It's shown that no one really takes him seriously, so I doubt he'd be anything more than a joke. I'm talking less of a joke than Ludo in Season 1. And because the Solarians' magic was given to them rather than being innate, I don't think their powers will come back if magic comes back. Hate groups might be a problem, but won't be much of a threat, especially in comparison to who else could show up. There are a number of loose ends of the show never addressed. And I'm not just talking about things never resolved by the intentionally open-ended conclusion, I'm talking about things going all the way back to the first season. One of the most notable ones is the mysterious room in St. Olga's. A decent amount of attention is drawn to it, but nothing ever comes out of it. But the sculptures, the mural, the floor, they're all very interesting. The sculptures depict lizards of some sort, possibly septarians like Toffee and Seth. To do a brief recap from last time, Seth was Toffee's Swarmer Master who instilled anti-mutant racism into the septarians. And unlike Toffee, who cared more about getting rid of magic, Seth was very much about eradicating this invasive species. The show's writers disagree on whether or not Seth is alive, so I concluded that if Seth is alive, he's crystallized, explaining why he isn't active on the show. The crystals were made by a magical being, so it's possible that they would break upon the destruction of magic. And there'd be an easy way for Star to figure out if this was the case. She presumably still has one of Romulus's chest crystals stashed away somewhere. This was another thing the show never touched upon again. But it's an easy way to check if the crystals are still intact. If this guy is running around, then things will get worse. If Seth was crystallized, he would have to have been imprisoned on Muni like Globgor was to be a threat. And I don't just mean because there's no way out of the crystal dimension. It's because the crystal dimension would cease to exist pretty quickly. Why? Well, it's because one of these crystals contains a black hole. And this isn't like the one Star creates a couple times, this one seems to reek of dark magic. So when the crystals are destroyed, the black hole will destroy everything in the dimension, especially because Romulus supposedly stopped it just in time. Globgor was imprisoned in the middle of his temple, so Seth was probably imprisoned wherever the Septarian hideout is. If Seth is alive, he'll still be very old, so he won't be able to fight, and his old army that Toffee led has long since disbanded, so he'll have to rely on others. He'll call upon this demonic army that can wreak havoc on Earthly for him. These demons likely have no sense of morality and will kill everything in their path, human, mumin, and monster alike. Seth and his demon army will become the big threat for all heroes to fight, and Star and Mako are destined to defeat him. Let's take another look at that room. On the floor there's a star and a sun surrounded by a crescent moon. The star represents Star, that's simple enough. The sun represents Marco since his name was originally supposed to be Sol, and the moon represents the blood moon, which while not responsible for their love, did bring them closer together. The skylight in the mural is essentially lighting the path that they'll take, presumably one involving magic. Which takes us to the part of the video you've all been waiting for. In the previous video, I said that magic will definitely return if the show comes back, but in-universe, not necessarily. Everyone can theoretically retire and live a calm, peaceful life. But with Seth and other villains potentially on the rise, getting magic back seems like the logical scenario. So that begs the question, how can magic come back? Last time I discussed the power of pudding and how Glossaryck used some to create a failsafe which allowed Star to restore magic from Toffee's corruption. Who's to say he didn't do that again? Well, some people might bring up how Glossaryck seemingly wanted magic to be destroyed.
I had to go there to find my mom, just like I had to go there to defeat Toffee.
Maybe that was a mistake too.
But if that's the case, then why did he let this happen? Canonically, Glossaryck has the ability to see into the future, so he may have said that to plant the idea of magic's destruction into Star's mind, so she and Marco are able to reform it in a better way. Star and Marco seem to have a special kind of magic which could have been granted to them by the Blood Moon. As far as we know, the Severing Stone only broke the bond between their souls. Any additional unknown effects would still be present. This latent magic gets stronger when they're together. They make each other stronger. After all, this magic acted up when they kissed in the photo booth, something they didn't want, whereas the same thing doesn't happen to other magic users even in loving kisses. I mean, the cleave couldn't happen without magic unless there was a separate source entirely. Star and Marco might still have this special form of magic within them, even after the cleave, but wouldn't do anything with it since they don't know it exists in the first place. Until they find the pudding. As for where Glossaryck would have left it, it might be in the ruins of the Magic Sanctuary. The dead realm of magic might still be accessible, but no sane person would go down there since there's no way out. The first time around, Star was able to restore magic to its previous form, but with pudding combined with the innate magic, it can be remade entirely. But wait! There's one other character who has a connection to magic like this. Remember Toffee's eye? If magic comes back, he might come back with it. Unfortunately, while he'll certainly put up a good fight, I doubt he'll be much of a threat this time around. Firstly, Toffee's finger is back, so he won't have any corrupting abilities anymore. And more importantly, if Star at full power was able to almost kill him, then he wouldn't stand a chance against Star and Marco. Pretty anticlimactic for a character I did a 25-minute video about, but it makes sense. Starco and Co. will be able to use this magic to defeat Seth and his army, thus fulfilling the prophecy from the mysterious room. How will this new magic work? Well, considering that seemingly anyone was able to use the old magic which led to the big conflicts in the first place, perhaps this new magic can only be used by those with noble intentions. Maybe Glossaryck will come back and can decide, or maybe magic will decide itself, since it's implied to be sort of sentient. Regardless, this new magic will allow for a better, brighter future, especially because of the most important thing. Meteor and Mariposa will grow up together! Oh boy, that was a lot. I somehow managed to do even more rambling than last time, even though this video is shorter. Unlike last time where I was examining canon, this is just my personal speculation, so of course you're free to disagree, and I encourage you to create your own fan theories of Star vs. the Forces of Evil post-canon. I'm not quite sure what my next video will be. It'll probably be a similar style of these ones, but it might be about a different show. Until next time, thanks for watching.